According to the Wall Street Journal, the Dow Jones Industrial Average during President Trump's first 30 days has seen the largest gain since President William Howard Taft in 1909. So how much credit should President Trump take for this massive uptick? Joining me now to explain is Dan Mitchell, Senior Fellow at the Cato Institute. Dan, always good to see you. How much credit can Trump claim here? How much of this is his? All or some or none?
Well, we don't know whether the Federal Reserve is pumping extra money into the economy, so we can't say for sure. But I think there's no question that the business community is very happy at the prospect of less red tape and regulation, and they're very happy at the prospect of potentially significant reductions in the corporate tax rate, which is really just a millstone around the neck of the American economy right now.
Yes, absolutely. And in he's promised a great tax plan. I mean, quoting him directly, a great tax plan. And it includes tax cuts for corporations, middle class, rolling back of regulations. But how quickly does he need to implement this before the markets start getting real nervous about it?
I think that the markets will be patient, assuming they see progress. I think companies and investors and entrepreneurs would like to see a well-designed tax cut more than they want to see a rushed-through tax cut. So if we have to go into the summer and even into the fall, but we get it right and we get a good reduction in the corporate tax rate, hopefully put aside this silly border-adjustable tax system that some House Republicans are talking about, which I think would be a mistake. If we get expensing instead of depreciation, so there's no longer a tax penalty on new investment, I mean, it's really the business tax side of things where our system is horribly uncompetitive. And in a global economy, you can't afford to shoot yourselves in the foot like we've been doing.
Right. And if he doesn't do it this year, obviously, then, you know, we could see a correction? We could have a market correction.
Well, I'm not going to pretend to forecast the stock market, but I will say that if we go through and the entire 2017 calendar year and there's not a big tax cut, or it doesn't even have to be a big tax cut in terms of the amount of money that the government doesn't collect, if we simply don't fix some of the warts in our tax system, because I think if we lower our corporate tax rate, there's a good likelihood in the long run, especially, the government will collect more revenue because our system right now is so bad.
I specifically remember seeing a video of you, Dan, explaining just that about 6 years ago, where you were saying, look, this is how the government can get more revenue. If you lower the amount of tax burden on everyone, then the government ends up getting more. It's difficult for some people to understand, I guess, even though, or they don't want to. You did such a great job explaining it. One last quick question for you, because you mentioned that border adjustment tax and how there's some elected officials, even on the Republican side, that are entertaining this. And I've heard it said, well, it's just basically, you know, particularly with Mexico, it's just they're not being taxed extra, so it's not punitive. It's just they're being taxed at the same rate as everybody else is now. But at the same time, that could increase taxes, increase costs for Americans.
What your listeners and viewers need to understand is that this border adjustable tax would impose a 20% levy on everything that's imported into the country while providing a big exemption for exports. That's probably going to run afoul of the WTO's rules that we've agreed to abide by. Right. It might cause retaliation by other countries. It definitely has some negative effects in terms of undermining tax competition, and it could pave the way for a value-added tax. Now, I want to be fair. Oof. Speaker Ryan and Ways and Means Chairman Brady are doing it because they have their hearts in the right place and they want to finance even bigger tax cuts. So I don't ascribe negative motives for anybody in this. I just think that tactically it's a mistake. I worry that if that whole system gets going, the left will demagogue and potentially kill tax reform and tax cuts altogether. And that's what we talked about at the start of the interview.
Exactly.
It's better to take our time and make sure we get it right, because frankly, with any new president, you get one shot at doing it in your first year, so let's do it correctly.
Absolutely. Dan Mitchell, always a pleasure, Dan. Thank you for your expertise.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.